had heard sort of in the background that there were these silica sand mines that were starting to open, and it was sort of a problem, and they were out there in Barron County and Chippewa County, someplace else. Bad things were happening someplace else. And that's really all I thought of it. Frankly, it wasn't in my backyard. Feel sorry for them. And then one day there was talk of them opening a frac sand mine about a quarter mile from where we live. The mine would be, as this crow flies, not a quarter mile from where we live. I mean, it's just literally partway into the hill right behind you. And then there's the currently operating mine, which is a quarter mile that way. And then there's the Wilson mine that's about to open. That's 2 miles that way. And so we'll be surrounded on 3 sides, as will, of course, many, many, many other people. And this mine, not only was it going to be right next to us, it was going to be between Downing, Wisconsin, of 175 people, all of whom get their water from private wells. Glenwood City, 1,200 people who have 2 public wells, one of which is right next to the mine. The school of 650 children is 1,500 feet away from this mine. I mean, all of Glenwood City is within 1.5 miles of this mine. And so you could hardly pick a worse spot for a 500-acre open-pit silica sand mine. This is the Glenwood City School. It's a K-12 school from, obviously, kindergarten through 12th grade. 650 local students go here. The teachers are all here, the buses are all maintained here, everything takes place here. It's the center of the community. It's hands down the largest employer of the community, and as the case with many of these smaller communities, it's the identity of the community. The Hilltoppers, the sports team, everybody follows them, how the football team does, how the basketball team does, the wrestling team is known for being quite good. And so what happens here powerfully affects the rest of the community. The school sits right next to the rest of the town, right next to the assisted living home, next to where many of the people live, and is connected to the rest of the community. And so if you have a 500-acre open pit mine here, where children are going to be for 14 to 16 years of their lives, i.e. exposed to the potential of low-level silica dust over a long term, you're optimizing the potential for disaster, as in fact you're doing for the 1,500 people who live right around this school. That's the reality of the situation. One of the issues, or some of the issues with silica sand mining are silica dust. Because when you mine the sand, you don't just get the sand, which isn't a problem. You get dust. And silica dust has been known to be a health hazard literally since the time of the ancient Greeks. The Greeks discovered that their stone carvers were getting sick. They were having lung problems. And they didn't know why, but they knew there was some association with carving rock. The Romans discovered that the people who were making their concrete were having lung problems because of the dust. And that's still the case today. And in this country, the big push forward where they really started to figure out what silica dust, what the problems were associated with it, was during the Great Depression. There was what's known as the Hawks Nest project, which was a huge boring project down in West Virginia. And they were tunneling through these mountains that had very high quartz content. And 700 workers ended up dying from what was discovered to be silicosis, breathing in too much silica dust. And so the US government launched a major research project and discovered, in the course of the last 60 years, silica dust, incredibly deadly, low-level exposure over time, deadly. They've never figured out how low the exposure needs to be for it to not be a problem. They can't measure down that far. Right now, the legal limit is 5/100ths of a milligram per day, but they know that's too high. But like I say, they can't measure any lower. It also seems to cause a chemical form of tuberculosis, seems to aid and abet cancer. I mean, it's just a disaster. If you eat it, that's bad. If you get it on your skin, that's bad. If you get it on your clothing, that's bad. You breathe it in, it's not good at all. So you're putting a 500-acre silica sand mine next to a kindergarten. Does that make any sense at all? This is the grade school, right around here, and that's the gym. And this is the
playground where the kindergartners and first graders play a couple times a day. And right behind us, right over there, is where the mine is going to be. I mean, that mine is barely a quarter mile from where we're standing, so that the mine is larger than the distance between it and where we are right now. That's that's what everybody's going to be exposed to. The prevailing winds come from the southwest, and so in fact on a windy day this school is going to be covered in a fine dust, and everybody's going to breathe it in whether they want to or not. The kids on the track team are going to be going out for 5-mile jogs in spring and fall, breathing the stuff in. The football team's going to be practicing in it. The kindergartners at recess are going to be breathing it in. It's going to get all over the seats of the buses, and they're going to breathe it in whether they want to or not on the way home and back. They're going to eat it in their school lunches. They're going to be exposed to it 24 hours a day. And the water is going to be affected by the high capacity well that they're going to put into the processing plant. They're going to use flocculants, which have a component that's a known highly effective neurotoxin that's going to be buried on site. It's going to be used on site, going to be kept on site, it's going to be buried on site. And by the fact that you're removing those hills, you're removing the entire filtering system for all the underground water. And at some point, the acrylamides, which is the component of the flocculant, the settling compound that is of most concern, is going to get into the water. And you're going to have 300 pounds of pure acrylamide that's enough to do in every man, woman, and child in the area.
What's happened is that these mines tend to group together. I mean, you get 1, and then you get 2, and then you get 5. You go over to New Auburn and you have 7 of them, all within 5 miles of each other. And they've created a holy hell out there. I mean, it's truly, truly frightening. The truck traffic is nonstop. The roads have been destroyed on a windy day. As they say, there's just a mist in the air. You have to use your windshield wipers even though there's no moisture, there's no rain. And those poor people are going to wake up in 10, 15 years and they're all going to be busily dying. And then we'll discover something was horribly wrong. But for now, it goes on because we're in a state of denial and we want energy.
As you have more and more and more of these mines, you get more and more dust that gets concentrated. You have more and more effect on the water that gets concentrated. And you have more and more traffic that's destroying the roads and making it completely impossible to get around. When all these mines are operating, with all these trucks operating, what people don't fully appreciate is that the intersection that they have to go through to get to the highway is literally going to be rush hour traffic from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day of the week.
The people from the DNR, who of course are one of the prime regulatory agencies, readily admitted they were in absolutely no position to regulate this industry. They don't have the personnel, they don't have the equipment, they don't have the expertise, they can't do it. But on paper, they're the ones who absolutely have to do it. The health department said essentially the same thing. They're in no position to do that. And the mining rep felt that actually the aggregate business was over-regulated. In fact, he readily admitted that the sand business probably could use more regulation, and as I say, he referred to it as a frenzy, that these mines were opening at just this crazy rate.
Everybody has always been here just assuming that this is the way it was always going to be, that it's rural America, and you listen to the birds and you go walking down a quiet road and people farm in their green hills, and to suddenly have it turn into a mining district is a person hardly knows what to say. A person never thought of Wisconsin as being mountaintop mining in West Virginia, and that's effectively what is happening, is areas are just being wrecked.
The silica sand business is wildly profitable, which is why these characters have come out of the woodwork to open these mines, because the profit margins are amazing. Apple Computer would be very happy with these profit margins. And so you're not going to stop silica sand mining, I don't think. I mean, the demand is there, the demand for energy is there. It's just Wisconsin, as our governor says, is open for business, and so you're not going to stop it. But at the very least, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put these kind of operations where they can do the maximum amount of damage. So you don't put a silica sand mine next to 1,500 people in their school.